I'm taking a trip on Brightline from Miami Station all the way to Orlando on their brand new line. This is the first passenger service to Orlando, and I'm riding in premium class, which is their first class equivalent. Just like the grand opening ceremony, the train ride from Miami to Orlando is about 235 miles and takes about 3.5 hours, with what should be a top speed of about 125 miles per hour. The cost of this trip in premium class starts at $149. Alright, we are taking a trip from Miami to Orlando in premium class today. And I'm very excited about this because I just took the trip from Orlando to here. And now we're going back to my hotel. I'm definitely tired. I've been up since 4 a.m. So I'm definitely excited to go back to my hotel right now. In the lobby of the Brightline station, you can get ticket machines over there, as well as guest services. They'll help you with any checked luggage and ticket issues that you might have. And let's head upstairs. There are usually multiple elevators, however, we can take the escalator. Once you have your ticket, you do have to go through turnstiles. They need you to scan your ticket, and then you got to go through security. Immediately upon going through security, you get into the Smart Lounge in the waiting area here. And there are plenty of seats. There are plenty of people, some deciding to sit in other places. And there is a Mary Mary bar as well. They also have the cashierless market where you can tap your card, walk in, grab whatever you want, and walk out. I'm going to skip this today just because I don't have much time. I did not plan very well, so I only had a 30-minute connection between the train I got off on and taking the same train back to Orlando. But there are restrooms here as well. There is a family restroom, and there is no nursing station here, so it's just a family restroom. So in the Orlando Lounge, there are a lot of different food options. Since today's the inaugural day, there are actually some more than you would normally get, but it's all fun to look at. There is also the free drink station. You can get an alcoholic beverage or normal drinks if you want as well. Because of how little time I gave myself in Miami, the train back to Orlando was already boarding by the time I walked into the lounge. So I make my way over to the boarding gates before I end up missing the train. I have just about 5 minutes to get on the train before it departs. And credit where credit is due, Brightline has some amazing departure boards with great visuals. To celebrate the inaugural run from Miami to Orlando, Brightline has offered some catering today. There's coffee, water, tea, some pastries, and Brightline branded cookies. While I was running short on time, I did manage to get to the front of the train just to snap a picture. Alright, here's our beautiful Siemens charger. I believe it's an SC40 for Brightline, or SCB40. And it should be taking us back to Orlando today. It was the first train from Orlando, and it's the first train to Orlando. Alright, let's walk our way up to coach 1. We're starting at coach 4. And we're just going to enter here so we can get a look at the other coaches. now arriving at Coach 1, where we're sitting today. I have seat 17A, which is actually the accessibility seating. So that's going to be interesting, but yeah, let's take a look. And we're taking off, headed over to Orlando. I believe we have 4 stops in order to get to Orlando. Let's just take a quick look at our seat. We are in the premium cabin, seat 17A. This is the accessibility seating, and that's because I had to make a change, and I got this seat last minute. But I still get the same seat that's about 17 inches, and the leg room, as you can see, is a lot because there's supposed to be a wheelchair here, and that wheelchair isn't here, so I get all of the space now. But something worth noting about the accessibility seating is that the light controls are also here. So I can use this to turn on the light, which is awesome. Alright, so every seat is equipped with a nice big tray table. There's also a smaller one for cell phones. Beneath that you can see the mesh so you can store items. And below that you should be able to see the power. So every seat should be equipped with at least 1 outlet. In some cases it can go up to 4. The design is pretty standardized on this train, so there are cases like you can see across from there's an outlet that nobody can use. That's just because of how the design of the train is. Everything is standardized. While it is unfortunate that the table is so far away from me to be able to use, let's be real here, this legroom cannot be beat. Now there's also quite a bit of luggage storage on this train. As you can see, there's a rack here with an upper rack and then the overhead storage, which can also take your bags. This ample storage makes sure that no matter what you bring, you shouldn't have trouble being able to store it. All trains are equipped with overhead displays, and these displays will tell you important information about your journey, as well as the next stop on your train and all the stops the train is making. And lastly, you have the blinds, which these are like the see-through ones. They're still pretty good at blocking out light, and there is 1 per window. So if you do share your window with someone else, just be mindful of that so that you're not interfering with their ability to see through out the window if you want to use it. Alright, let's see how clean the restroom is after a whole day's worth of traveling. And for the most part, it's actually still pretty clean. You've got the baby changing table. You got your disposal and your sink, and I'm pretty sure everything still works, right? Yep, everything still works great. Now, in order to lock it, I have to like push, and now it locks. Now, if you ever trap yourself in here, right, the door closes on you and you push and it locks, just push it again and it'll open. Yeah. I can't wait till we have this on the Northeast Corridor. The first stop on this train is Aventura. We're approaching it now, and it's actually pretty close to Miami. This is basically a commuter trip for someone if they're going between Miami and here. This is also one of the new stations. I believe it opened earlier this year, right before the Orlando extension did. So yeah, this is also a new train, and that is Bright Blue. I have no idea if that's Bright Blue 1 or 2, but yeah. Welcome to Aventura. As you can see, there's a bridge over there in the background. That's the bridge that actually connects to the station building. Unlike other stations where the building is usually over the platform. In this case, it's under. You could also see here that there's some low-level platforms. This will be used for commuter trains in the future. But yeah, this is a very future-proof station, which is pretty nice. And there's actually quite a bit of people getting on, so let's get back to our seats so we can let these people get settled in. And there it is, the destination display for Orlando. Once again, this is the first passenger train to Orlando. And just at about 30 minutes, we're pulling into our second station of the day. This is Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, again, these stations are pretty close now, ever since the infill stations Aventura and Boca Raton were made. However, this train is not stopping in Boca Raton. It's going straight to West Palm Beach. So after this stop, the next one will be West Palm Beach. Also, I just really love the fact that you can sit here. This is a really great spot to sit, talk to the camera, go on a phone call, wait for the bathroom. Alright, we are now at Boca Raton, but this train does not stop here. This is the only stop that this train skips, and the next stop is West Palm Beach. Another thing I want to note for the video, something that was prevalent in the first trip and for the most part prevalent on this trip as well, is that there is a very calm atmosphere. For the most part, there's not a lot of crazy panic or excitement, which is great because sometimes, especially, you know, being from the city, when you get new things, people can get a little too crazy about it. But that's not the case here. Alright, I just want to quickly talk about the accessible seating because I need to explain why I'm sitting here today. So when Brightline was adding the Orlando trips, the schedule was constantly changing, the date was being pushed back, and what ended up happening was, you know, I would book a ticket, it'd get canceled, I'd have to rebook, or the departure would change, and it became into this whole mess where sometimes you just didn't know which train was going to be the actual train. And when they finally settled on the date and the actual departures, I found myself, you know, being on this train, but there weren't any more seats left. So when I was talking to the customer service rep, they put me in the last seat that was available, which is the accessible seating. However, that being said, this is not the best seat, but it's also not the worst seat. For starters, you get an insane amount of legroom at this seat, which is great, but that's also coming at the cost of not having a table by you. The space in general is about the equivalent of getting a table seat with no one sitting with you, and for the most part, I actually kind of like it. I can get up, I can stretch around. This is kind of like my space. But that being said, you have an outlet, you know, that one outlet over there that's really, really far, and luckily I do have a 2-meter cable, so a 2-meter cable is enough to reach over here, so I don't have to put my stuff there or, you know, have it with me. I don't have to worry about that. But the other issue is like having table service. You know, they give you drinks, they give you snacks. The tables are really, really far away, so every time I want to grab a sip of my coffee, I have to get up and grab it, you know, or if I want a snack, I have to get up and grab it. I can also just choose to hold on to it, but it is a bit inconvenient. I feel like for an accessible seating, there should also be an accessible table, like a fold up tray table or something. As far as I'm aware, this seat does not have that. The other thing is that this seat also does not recline, which I think is kind of odd because the seats are supposed to recline going forward, not backward. So there shouldn't be an issue of me sliding my seat forward, especially with all this space. But that's the limitation of this seat. Alright, and we are now approaching the last station before Orlando. This is West Palm Beach. And I believe that is actually a train from Orlando. And I'm not 100% sure because I don't know the exact schedules, but yeah, I think this is another train that's coming from Orlando. This is West Palm Beach, the last stop before Orlando. Alright, they have come around with snack boxes now. And in the snack box, they get you some popcorn, some salami with cheese, a fruit bar, and some chocolates, which I'm actually really excited about this chocolate because it looks good. But yeah, and I heard from the staff that we will get a lunch box for the passengers that continue on to Orlando. Alright, we are off to Orlando, the next and last stop on this train. So from Miami to this station, West Palm Beach, it's just over an hour. From this station to Orlando, non-stop, is almost 2.5 hours. Basically double the amount of time that we just spent from going from Miami to here. Alright, we are now departing West Palm Beach. This is the first passenger train going to Orlando. The train before this one that went to Orlando was for execs and the media. That was an invite-only train. This is the first revenue train for passengers going to Orlando. Okay, something I do want to note on this train specifically, there has been some issues with overbooking, and I suspect that this is the same issue that Brightline had when they opened Aventura and Boca Raton. For those that are unaware of what happened when those two stations opened up, basically a lot of people had duplicate bookings for the same seat. I suspect this issue is because when the new trips were added, they did not recognize that the old trips were still there, so those old reservations were still valid, and new reservations were made on top of those old reservations. So you had a lot of cases with people with the same seat. Now, from the West Palm Beach to Orlando, I don't think that should be an issue, but there was some issues between Miami and West Palm Beach just because there might have been people that have made just normal bookings before the Orlando extension tickets opened up, and I think those people had duplicate bookings, unfortunately. Now, the staff were really concerned about it, and they did quite a bit of work to ensure that, you know, these passengers are accommodated for. And the staff, they were, you know, incredibly concerned, caring, and accommodating towards affected people. And for the most part, I'm really, really impressed with their customer service. Their onboard customer service is, I think, above what, you know, you would expect. Overbooking, stuff like that, it happens. And it's not the fault of the train staff, but, you know, I see that they're going above and beyond to accommodate these people, and I really, really respect that. We're going at a pretty fast speed, and I'm standing, and it is very, very smooth. It's almost incredible. Alright, and we're speeding down the corridor. I would give you an exact speed that we have, but unfortunately the speedometer does not have GPS signal again. So if you actually want to know how fast you're going, it's more than likely you won't be able to check. But you're going fast. You know, riding this train, the one thing that I think about the most right now is I wonder what it'll feel like when trains like this are running on the Northeast Corridor. That's expected to happen in 2026 with the arrows, but that's still a long ways away. That's 2+ years. Knowing how things go around here, it could probably get delayed. We might not even see it till 2027, or God forbid, it turns into one of the Acela situations where 3 years after it was supposed to start running, it's still not. But the one thing about Brightline that I admire the most is they're making a frequent service with modern rolling stock that's comfortable, and this is the future that we want to see. This is the future we want to see on Amtrak. This is the future that Amtrak is trying to achieve. Another thing I wonder while we're on this portion of the route is, what are some of the future infill stations that Brightline plans to make? Because there are a lot of opportunities between West Palm Beach and Orlando for new infill stations, and there are a couple communities along the way that it can do a good job serving. Also, by the way, I gave up with the speedometer. I just have a map now. Look at the radius on that thing. You have no clue where we are. Alright, we are stopped. Not exactly sure where we are. We're still quite away from Coco before we get to the dedicated part of the line. I'm not sure why we stopped. It was a bit sudden, so something might have happened up the line. I guess we're gonna find out very soon, so stay tuned. Alright, we are moving again. No explanation as to what exactly happened or what caused the stop, but it was pretty brief. A couple minutes after we stopped, we got going again, so not big a deal. I don't think we'll be late into Orlando, or if we are, it'll be by 1 or 2 minutes, so we should be fine. And unfortunately, my bad luck caught up with me and they ran out of meals. So they offered me an additional snack box instead. Unfortunately, they ran out of meals for first class, and I ended up getting a second snack box instead. But they gave us desserts, which I was not expecting. So I actually forgot to show what was in the second snack box, but it was plantain chips, which I ate. Sorry. But there's hummus, which looks very interesting. Another fruit bar and another chocolate bar. This one seems normal though. Because I missed out on the meal, I did get first pick on the desserts. It was between a chocolate cake, cheesecake, and a macaroon. Alright, we are approaching Coco, so we're going to soon be in the dedicated section of track.
Alright, that was the Coco Tunnel, and we are now on the dedicated section of Brightline track. From here on out, the maximum speed is 125 miles an hour.
So we're definitely passing traffic along the highway to Orlando. However, we're not at the maximum speed that this train can go. So I'm not sure what's holding this train back at the moment, but we could definitely be going faster than this.
and the train was unable to reach its top speed of 125 miles per hour because of that earlier signal malfunction. We were limited to 60 miles per hour. Even being forced to travel at a reduced speed, we were still going faster than the flow of traffic, and for me, that's a win in my book.
So the map hasn't updated in a while, but I suspect that we're actually pretty close to the airport. You can see the bridge for the future commuter rail tracks. Or that could actually be another track for Brightline. The commuter rail might be on the other side, actually. But welcome to Orlando. We're arriving at Terminal C. This is the brand new terminal. And nearly 7 hours later, we are back where we started. Oh. All right, thank you so much.
Having you enjoy Orlando. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining us today.
All right, we're in the Orlando station now. And there's quite a lot more people for the afternoon trains. And for the most part, we could see what the station looks like in its normal day-to-day operation. We didn't really spend much time having, an inaugural ceremony or anything today. And we kind of just went in right to the normal operations. Granted, there were still some hiccups, and I'm going to talk about that, but let's just take a look around. So from this morning, the Premium Lounge was open to everyone, but now in the afternoon, now that everything's kind of gone to normal operations, you do have to scan your ticket to get in. Since I came from Miami, my ticket will not let me get into the lounge. There's actually less people in the marketplace now, so I can actually take a look at what they have. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff. It's not just all train themed. There's some Florida stuff. There's some just general goods that you might want to buy, souvenirs, gifts. So don't rule it out. Some hats, coolers, thermoses. But yeah. They also have playing cards, which I actually might want to buy for a gift for someone. But we'll see. There's still a lot more stuff I can see and decide if I want to buy. Oops, sorry. On the opposite side of the station, we have the Smart Lounge, which is open to everyone. For the most part, this is just a basic waiting area. It's actually not too different from the Premium Lounge. The only difference is you don't really get free snacks and drinks. But it's still a nice place to wait. There are plenty of outlets. Seats are really, really comfy. And I actually think this is a plus. You get to see into the people mover section of the terminal. So that's pretty cool. And let's not forget, there's also the children's play area, which is not available in the Premium Lounge. And I love this. This is a cute little toy Brightline train. and kids can play with that. And that's actually something you could buy in the shop. All right, now that I spent 7 hours on one train, granted, because that was the same train that took me there and the same train that took me back to Orlando, it's time to talk about my final thoughts about this train ride. Overall, I would say it's pretty good, but not great, and there are a couple of reasons why. There were a lot of teething issues today, mainly because it's a new service. There are some things that probably got overlooked. Individually, each problem is not that big of a deal, but once you start adding these problems together, it becomes worse and worse. So I think one of the big issues was just food in general on the train. There was just never enough food on the train for the service that they needed to provide. This was basically a sold out train. The morning train was not sold out. I think it was like around half capacity from Orlando to West Palm Beach. And one of the big changes that Brightline made for this new service is that they provided meal service between Orlando and West Palm Beach. So anyone that's riding between Orlando and West Palm Beach in premium class gets a meal now. That's great. I love that. But there were not enough meals for everyone on the train. That's a huge issue. Basically, they started, scrounging for food. They got extra snack boxes. They got some food from the regular menu that people pay for. And while I do respect the staff, the staff worked really, really hard. There were so many issues that they had, and they did everything that they could in their power to not push those issues onto the customers, onto the passengers. But then there were issues with seats being double booked. I'm not exactly sure what happened to that first train, but it did come in to Orlando very late. The second train, which was the one I was on, that is the first train that passengers were allowed to book for. So that's the first revenue train. The train before that was a VIP train, invite only. The second train, it had a signal issue on its way to Orlando, and right before Coco, the train went to a full stop. After we proceeded, we had to proceed at a reduced speed, I think about 60 miles per hour. So we showed up to Orlando about 10 minutes late. I'm used to Amtrak, so 10 minutes is not a big deal, but on the first day, the first two trains coming into Orlando late, it's not the best look. Obviously, these are issues that I think they can fix pretty quickly. Now, there were also other issues with passengers and their seats. Some passengers didn't like their seats. Other passengers, they booked forward seats and got reverse seats. I believe both seats that I booked were supposed to be forward-facing seats, and I ended up getting backward-facing seats for both cases. If someone is booking a forward-facing seat, they do not want to get on the train and have a backwards-facing seat. So when the train is not meeting the expectations of the passengers, it's not a good look. But again, like I said, most of these issues were very, very minor by themselves. It's only when you start adding them together then it becomes a problem. By themselves, none of these issues would make me badmouth the service at all, and by no means do I think this is a bad service. I think this is a great service. They just need to work out the issues. But yeah, I think it was great. I loved it, even with all the issues that I experienced today. And the next time I am in Florida, I will try to make sure that I get a chance to ride this train again and see if, they fix these issues. But, thanks for watching my rant, and take care.